it's Brijin, the Museum Stitcher, here on Flosstube, but also over on Instagram, Ravelry, and Goodreads. Welcome back to my channel, or just plain welcome. If you're new here, this is my little corner of the internet where I talk about my crafting life, mostly about cross-stitch. Today I've got lots of cross-stitch and a book to share. So if you like things like cross-stitching, reading, quilting, knitting, and all those kinds of things, please stick around, like, subscribe, comment, and say hi. Today is February 3rd of 2024. It's been about 3 weeks since I last filmed, so it's time for another update. So yeah, I've got some FFOs to share today. I've got a finish, I've got a lot of whips and some plans for next time. So I hope that sounds interesting, and we will kick things off today with some fully finishes. I have not fully finished anything in a while. So in case you don't know, FFO stands for fully finished object, which is where you take a cross stitch piece and you turn it into something, like you frame it or make a little pillow, etc., etc. And you can probably tell by what's behind me what I'm about to share. So let me grab it off the stand and I will be right back to tell you about it. Okay, so today's FFO, well, one of two, is Love Gains by Modern Folk Embroidery. If you've been following me for a while, you've seen this a lot. I finished this, or I started it in May of 2022, and I finished it at StitchCon last year in June of 2023. This was my StitchCon finish. I got to ring the bell, and I'm trying to avoid the glare, so I apologize if the angle is a little weird. But I stitched this on a 28 count Stay with the High Lord Even Weave from Fangirl Fibers, which is like a Court of Thorns and Roses themed fabric from a club a couple years ago. And I stitched it with Color and Cotton Salem Light floss. And I finally got around to framing it. This is a custom frame that I got from Michaels. And unfortunately, I don't know that I'm gonna be doing custom frames from Michaels again. I did the actual finishing of the piece into the frame. They just built the frame and gave me like the UV protected glass. But this piece was supposed to have a 1/2 inch margin from the inside of the frame on all sides. And as you can see, it does not. It definitely has a little bit more here, and if it was just even around the whole piece, I would be really happy. So I'm not really sure what happened, but I got another custom frame from them for a different piece, and it's also framed very tight. I'm gonna wait to show you that one until next time I film, just to spread out my FFOs a little bit. But this is the anti-glare glass, and it's doing a pretty good job, unless it's like directly in my ring light. So like I'm impressed with the actual quality of the frame. It's just, it's not cut to the right dimensions, and it's been way too long for me to go back and say anything, because I had this frame built back in like July, I think, and then I just, you know, got busy and haven't framed it. But anyway, I did my own lacing on this piece. You can actually see it on the back here. I use, I think it's Aunt Lydia's crochet thread that you find in the store, and then a really big needle. And then I have a point driver to secure it in here. I also have framing spacers in here so that my piece isn't pressed directly up against the glass. So it's got a little bit of breathing room. And while I'm not the best framer around, I would say it's not a bad job. Now the quote on this one I did change to be a quote from A Court of Thorns and Roses, because I love that book series. And this is from, I'll get up close so you can read it if you'd like to. But this quote is from a part of the book where a character is kind of embracing who she's become a little bit, and it's kind of an FU to her old life, or to the person that she was at the beginning of the series. And yeah, I love it. I know it reads a little depressing, but I promise the part in the book is a lot better. But that's my custom frame from Michaels. I'm gonna live with it because it was expensive and it's fine. Like it's just like really close to the top there, you know what I mean? But yeah, that's my framed piece here, and I'm really happy to be able to look at this. I think it's just a stunning piece. And I know a lot of my friends have this going right now, and I can't wait to see their finishes of them as well, because this piece just needs to be looked at. And I think this is my first framed Quaker as well. So let me put it back on the stand and we'll talk about the next one. Okay, next up, I framed Autumn Cottage by Plum Street Samplers. I started and finished this last year in 2023. And this was a stitch along with my friend Megan Babauta, the Seattle Stitcher. And Megan sent me the chart and half of her flosses, so we stitched it together. So that's a friendly reminder, if you have friends who cross stitch, for these small charts like this, just buy all the threads together once and split them in half, and it'll have enough for you to stitch at least a piece like this. So I love this piece. I think it's so freaking cute. Plum Street Samplers is one of my favorite designers, and I stitched mine on a 40 count brown sugar linen by Fiber on a Whim with all the called for flosses, Fancy Flosses, and then I added my initials. And I love this piece. I've loved this for a while. I actually got this frame in the clearance section at Michael's. It's just like a little standard frame. And I know this probably would have made like a really cute pillow, but I'm just obsessed with it. I want it on my wall to look at. And I think the blues match pretty dang well for just an off-the-shelf frame. But I love it. I also laced this, but because I'm not using glass for this piece, I was able to just pop in my laced sticky board and pop the original frame back on. So I can now prop this on a shelf or hang it on the wall, and it's good to go. So that's FFO number 2 for this round. I've got a couple more FFOs that I actually did, but I'm gonna hold off and kind of spread them out a little bit. Just because my project roll where I keep all of my finished pieces that I have not fully finished yet, my project roll was kind of overflowing, so I spent some time last weekend going through and clearing it out. So yeah, I'm super excited to have this finished and framed. Such a cute piece. Highly recommend this one if you're looking for something autumnal that I'm gonna display year round because I love it. Okay, so normally what I would do after doing my fully finishes is share my finishes and then my whips. But I thought today we would kind of do things a little bit differently and break everything down by challenge because I have been a very goal-oriented stitcher this month and I'm really liking that. It's working for me right now. And I've had a lot of different Stitchy challenges or monthly goals that I've set for myself. And I thought it would be kind of fun to break down my projects that I've worked on. I think I have 7 projects that I've worked on in the last 3 weeks in this way. So if that works for you, that's what we're gonna do. And if it doesn't, I'm still gonna do it. So first project, we're going to go with my monthly goals. These are projects that I have set monthly goals for myself to either finish this year or to catch up on a series, and I have 3 of those overarching goals, or 4 of those overarching goals every month, and I worked on 3 of them in the last couple of weeks to wrap up January. First up is this one that I'm keeping in this new project bag from Painted Leaf Co. I know I'm on a no-buy, but this Jane Austen fabric I have loved for years, and I had to get it. So, you know, it is what it is. But this is the Vanity Sampler by Hello from Liz Mathews. I am stitching this with my amazing friend Cam the Stitcher, her beautiful Goth DMC conversion. It's these gorgeous deep purples and hot pinks and grays, and it's just absolutely lovely. So go check out Cam's channel if you've not heard of this conversion. It's amazing. It's so beautiful. And I started this on August 23rd of 2023. I had originally started it earlier than that, but I had to restart because my fabric wasn't dark enough. But I divided out the math to see how many stitches a month it would take for me to finish this piece in 2024. And the answer was 1,776 stitches after factoring out what I completed in 2023, which was not much. So that's what I'm trying to get done every month. And so I did that for January. I got my goal done, and this is what she's looking like. I will have showed you a picture already of where I was before on this project, but since I started it, or since the last time you saw it, which was Flosstube number 32, I was sitting at about 5% or just over 1,000 stitches. So I did 1,876 stitches, so I exceeded my monthly goal a little bit, just because I'd rather go over my goal if I can get a motif finish. And it's now sitting at 13.3% or 2,972 stitches out of the total of 22,400. So I essentially finished this moth and did some of these motifs along, all of these motifs along here, and finished out the second half of this center border. So now that I have completed the width of the interior of the piece, I'm going to next month, or should I say this month, for February, my goal is to start working the border going up and then over here, and then I'll start filling in this top section rather than completing this large bottom chunk, just because I'd like to start the border so I'm not left with all border at the end and kind of do motifs as I want to. This is a 40 count spilled coffee linen by XJuDesigns, which is insanely beautiful. I picked this up at Keepsakes at StitchCon last year, and I love it. This needle minder is from Top Knot Stitcher, and yeah, so that's my monthly goal in this one, check mark for January. And in February, this will be getting another 1,776 stitches. Yeah. So if I go over my monthly goals, I am not going to take it out of the next month. I'm going to save that for the end so that hopefully in December, the amount of stitching that I have is less, because December tends to be a pretty busy time of year anyway. So that's the plan. If I exceed my goal, that's great. And it will come out of December's stitching. So this is a long haul project. You're going to see this at least once a month from me. And I just love it. So let me kind of get you up close here, take it off the board. There. Beautiful. Now I am playing around a little bit with the hot pink and the light pink color. I'm kind of choosing where I'm putting them willy-nilly rather than sticking to the symbols in the chart, just because I think the hot pink shows up on this fabric really beautifully. And so I am kind of being a little bit more choosy with where I put my pinks and making a few color substitutions on motifs, but I don't see an issue with that. I think it's going to turn out lovely either way. So that is monthly goal check. I did complete all of my goals for January, which feels really, really good. I didn't know that it was going to happen. And one of them was definitely an under the wire goal, which is the one we'll talk about next. So there's that one. It'll go away probably until mid-February. Next up is the second day of Christmas by Hello from Liz Mathews. Now, technically, you might say, Brijin, this is a new start because you did start this in January of 2024. However, I'm not actually counting it as a new start because I am stitching all 12 of these Days of Christmas pieces on one piece of fabric. And I'm stitching half of one every month until I finish the series, which should take me about 2 years. So it's technically a new start, but also still a whip. So think of that however you will. But here's what it looked like last time when I just finished the first day of Christmas. And here it is now. So like I said, my goal for January was to get half of the second day of Christmas sampler finished. I am stitching this on a 46 count cream and sugar linen, which is an absolutely massive piece. This is folded in quarters by Fiber on a Whim with the called for NPI silks. And yeah, so, for this month, half of the second day of Christmas sampler is about 2,500 stitches plus 59. I know I said that weird, but you know, you gotta do what you gotta do. So I actually ended up doing 2,612 stitches. So again, exceeded my goal a little bit. And I got all of the houses done and the entire border of the piece. Now, I made a couple changes. These houses are all called to have initials in them, but I decided to just make this house here have my initials, and I promise it shows up better in person than it looks on camera. Because this sampler also has a block right here for the year that I'm going to be saving to do the year I finish this entire series. And I figured this block would just be my initial and date block, and that way mine are the only initials on this piece. So yeah, that's the second day of Christmas. I will be finishing out the second half of it in February and then starting day 3 in March. So another long haul whip, but I got my goal done. I finished this on the last day of January, like pretty late into the night. So I did get my goal done, but you know, that's it. So 51% complete. I have the other 49% to do in February. All right, and my last monthly goal is to work on my full moon stitch with my friends. This is the most lackadaisical goal that I have every month, and it's just because it's a day goal and not a numerical goal. But I'm keeping this in a project bag, also from the Painted Leaf Co, I believe. And it's just really cute hearts because I love my friends. But this is Sarah Moon 1791 by Stitchy Box Samplers. I'm stitching this with a bunch of my girlfriends, including Cam the Stitcher, Marjorie Maid, and Megan Babauta, who I do a lot of things with. But we decided to pull this piece out because it's Sarah Moon on the full moon of every month in 2024. And I missed December, so I decided to work on it for 2 days this month in January, and I got a good chunk done. So here's what she's looking like now. This is stitched on a 40 count dirt track linen by Fox and Rabbit, which is incredible linen, with the HDF Silk or Vicki Clayton Silk Conversion. Beautiful, beautiful silks, beautiful project. And my goal for this piece was to not leave a hanging thread and to at least finish one Quaker, and I did that. So I got this center Quaker finished, a couple of the letters from the alphabet, and this little like hot pink motif that was under this big Quaker. So you might be looking at this and you might be wondering, Brijin, this is a pretty large piece. It doesn't look like you have a lot of margin. And to that, I'd say you are correct. So here's a picture. I actually went through and threaded a piece of floss along the entire top edge and sides just to map out the actual number of stitches in the project. And I have about 1.5 inches, maybe less than that, of margin on each side, but it's fine. We're going to stick with it because this fabric is too beautiful for this piece and I can't find it in a half yard anywhere. So we're sticking with it. But this was sitting at Flosstube 34, 0.06%, 103 stitches out of almost 27,000. And now I'm sitting at 3.8% or 1,019 stitches. And I did 874 stitches in my very lax 2 days of stitching on this guy. My needle minder, I don't know where I got that needle minder, but that is Sarah Moon 1791. And you guys will see this again when I film at the end of February or early March. I don't know my filming schedule yet. I do every 3 weeks, so just whenever that falls. That's Sarah Moon. So she did get some love on the full moon this year, or this month. And I think the full moon in February is the 24th, if I'm not mistaken. So again, that will be an end of the month thing. All right. So those are all of the monthly goals that I set for myself that I've worked on. And the next category of goals that we'll talk about is Whip Go. So this is my first year actually doing Whip Go. In the past, I tried it like kind of halfway through the year and I didn't have a whole lot of whips and I failed pretty early, and so I just kind of gave up on it. But this year I'm doing something a little bit different with Whip Go. I have only put non-seasonal pieces on my Whip Go board, and I am either trying to do a full 10% of the chart or get the project to 10% depending on the size or, you know, the amount of effort that I have to give to Whip Go that month. I'm setting my goal as the numbers are pulled, so I'm not setting all my goals at the beginning of the year. I'm kind of being a little bit more relaxed with it. But my second Whip Go pull for January was The Fox by Cottage Garden Samplings. And I was originally only going to do 1,500 stitches on it, but once I started, I couldn't stop, and I actually got a finish. So this is The Fox by Cottage Garden Samplings. Like I said, this is stitched on a 40 count Morning Mist linen by Forbidden Fiber Company with all the called for threads, which is mostly DMC. I have had this as a whip since May 7th of 2022, and there's no reason that something this small, even though it's deceptive, should have taken me this long. But I finished it on January 23rd or 21st. Let's see. Yeah, January 21st of 2024. We had some like icy weather and the fill-in that I had left on the tail was just about perfect for it. So last floss tube I was sitting at 62.4%, and I did about 2,500 stitches to get this done. So I exceeded my goal by a lot, but I think it was totally worth it to get that finish in. So between this and A Buzz at Midnight, I have officially reached 2 finishes for the year of 2024 so far, which means I've earned a new start if I want one, which is exciting. I haven't started anything yet, but I do have a couple kind of ideas. But I really haven't felt the urge to start anything this month so far. I actually escaped January with 0 new starts, which is amazing. I am very surprised. But I will talk through my whip go pulls for the month of February and after we've kind of covered all of the whips. So don't worry, I have more to talk about with whip go as we get a little further in. Okay, next up, let's talk whip birthdays. So the next challenge that I set for myself was to work on all of my whips on their whip birthdays or for one day during the month that their birthday is in. A whip birthday is just the anniversary of when I started it. I know there's probably better ways for me to say that, but the month of January has 2 whips with birthdays, which is At the Met by Mirabilia and Beatrix Potter. And unfortunately, I didn't work on At the Met. But I did work on my Beatrix Potter Quaker sampler by Stitchy Designs. I started this as my new start for 2023, and I have not worked on it, I think, since March of 2023. I barely got anything done on this piece, which is really sad because it's beautiful and I love it so much. So I was really happy to have worked on this. I honestly could have worked on this for more time, but unfortunately I had to move on to complete my other goals. So it just got 1 day of stitching, but this is what it looks like. So I know it doesn't look crazy different. I only did about 450 stitches on this guy, but I'm stitching it on a 40 count gray magic linen by XJuDesigns, which is insanely gorgeous. XJuDesigns has some of the coolest fabric, and I'm stitching it with NPI silk in the color 335. Which is this like avocado green. It's beautiful. And since I saw you last, I finished my hanging thread because my goal is also to have no hanging threads by the end of 2024. And so I finished out this Quaker. Or is it this Quaker? Maybe I finished this Quaker and I did the border on this very large flower. Again, it's not much. It was only 1 day of stitching and I really want to do more, but I had to move on. So this, I didn't stitch it on its whip birthday, but I did stitch it 1 day in the month of January. My needle minders from Mad for Minders on this one. It's like a vintage girl cross stitching. But yeah, that is Beatrix Potter. I need more finished monochromatic Quakers in my life, but unfortunately all the Quakers that I have started are huge. And so slow and steady wins the race on this one. I think this will probably be a focus project for the year 2025 for me because there's no way it's getting done in 2024, but I could see this being a really great strand a day project because it's monochromatic and I really do need to stitch more on it in the future, but I know my limits and I know my goals and that's just not going to happen right now. Okay, and I think the last category of projects that I worked on in the last couple of weeks is my PickAWhips. So PickAWhip is a stitching challenge that was started by one of my close friends, Marjorie Made Stitches, and it's essentially a whip go style situation, but it's more prompt based. So essentially she picks out a stitching prompt twice a month, once on the 1st and once on the 15th, and you pick a existing whip of yours that fits into that current prompt. So I think I have 2 to share with you, one from the end of January, and I've also completed my beginning of February PickAWhip. So the first prompt that I'm sharing with you today was the end of January prompt, and that was to work on a project that was your favorite color. And I noodled around on this for a while, but ultimately with PickAWhip, for me, I am a little bit more relaxed with it. And I do kind of want it to fit the stitching I already wanted to work on or things that I felt called to work on. And I have a lot of favorite colors. Obviously, I love color, period. But I decided to work on Oh Joyous Day by Blackbird Designs. I love this piece. It's insanely beautiful, and I will show what it looked like the last time you saw it. I don't think I've worked on this since February or March of 2023. I didn't work on this very much when I got it started, but this is a stitch along that I started with Katie the Novel Stitcher and Sarah of Sarah's Stitchy Spot, both of whom run amazing floss tubes. And I'm storing it in a Project Keeper by Tiger Lily Designs that I bought from Carrie, which is this just gorgeous vintage fabric. And I have my Adam Hart floss bobbins that are actually floss drops. You can kind of see it there with all of my threads in my pockets. And then like the chart lives here. So yeah, that is how I store this one. But like I said, I'm not super strict with my PickAWhip goals, but when I pulled this out, I just couldn't stop working on it. So all right, it was sitting at 20.7% or about 2,785 stitches. And I did about 1,300 stitches on this in the 3 days that I worked on it. I'm stitching mine on a 40 count Nessie linen by Picture This Plus. I love this blue, and these pinks and reds in this chart are beautiful. Those are definitely my favorite colors, specifically this blue. And also the needle minder is like my favorite color. So between the blues and the pinks, this had me covered. And I did, like I said, 1,300 stitches. It's now sitting at 30.2%, or about 4,102 stitches out of a grand total of 13,600. So I went through and I finished out I think I did the border under these flowers, and then this like zigzag border, and there's smearing crosses and the first line of the alphabet. And I extended the border on the sides a little bit. This border is 2 colors, so I just did the next section of the next color. Get you in a little closer. Oh, isn't it beautiful? I am so obsessed with this piece. But I started this on February 23rd of 2023. So this has its WHIP birthday again in February, which means I'll be pulling it out again. And it was one of my WHIP Go calls for February as well, as a little bit of a spoiler. So my goal for this one is to try and get it to 50%, which I think is about 2,600 stitches. But because it's hashtag Pink February stitching, which I'll talk about it a little bit later, and there's pink in this, and it was a WHIP birthday and a WHIP Go pull, this is going to get a lot of love in February, and I'm not mad about it. So yeah, that is Oh Joyous Day by Blackbird. If you've been following me for a while, you may also recall that this piece, I had originally changed the quote, or the alphabet lines right here, to have a quote in them, because there's 2 alphabetical lines on this chart. But upon reflection, the me of February 2023 and the me of right now have a little bit of different tastes. February me swore up and down that I didn't actually enjoy stitching projects with alphabets, and now I stitch a lot of them and I love them. So I definitely went back to the original way this was charted, and I'm very thankful that I did not get to a point where I'd started that quote in 2023. So yay for me not picking this up for a while, because now my current stitchy mood gets to determine what this looks like, and that's the alphabet. So that's that. And I only have one more project to share with you that I worked on, and then we'll talk plans and a little bit of haul. Not much, but you know, it is what it is. So the next PickAWhip prompt for the beginning of February was to work on a project with flowers, which is so easy. I had so many projects, even the last project I just shared with flowers on them, because I love florals and I love stitching florals. But like I said, I am trying to kind of double up some of my goals here. So I decided to make my round robin fit this prompt, which is Quaker Gardens by Hello from Liz Mathews. This has some beautiful Quaker flowers all over the design. I'm stitching this as a round robin with my friends, Alexis of Alexis _ My Amazing World, Maddie of Kitty Stitch on Instagram, Frizzy Lizzie Stitches here on Flosstube, also Marjorie Made Cam and Megan. And we essentially all picked our own fabric and floss options for this piece, and we're sending them around. And when you get to that person's piece, you stitch the next section, and by the end of it, everyone will have stitched one flower on everyone else's piece. And after stitching cams, which I'm about to share with you, I only have one left, which is super exciting. So here's Cam's project. You guys, this is so insanely beautiful. Let me get it a little bit better situated. Okay, so Cam's project is stitched on a 36 count kunzite linen by Fiber on a Whim, which is this gorgeous like lavendery shade. It's beautiful. And her floss is a Most Sale Silk in the shade Cranberry Bread, which is this gorgeous, I'll get you in here, hot pink to brown variegated. And so there's Cam's flower, then Maddie's, and then Elizabeth's, and Megan's, and Alexis's, and now me. So I did this whole flower, I added my initials here. I did part of this bottom border, I did these motifs here. And yeah, it was about 763 stitches in that section. And now this is ready to go off to Marjorie, where Marjorie will finish off the last flower, and then it will be back to Cam and she can actually get this finished. So while this piece is monochromatic, everyone has worked on a section of it. And it's really cool because like Alexis crosses her X's in a different way than we do. And so you can like see everyone's little eccentricities when they're stitching. I think the backs are also really fun to look at. Ignore the one hanging thread I left to carry the variegation on that bottom border. But here's the back. It's just fascinating. I love stitching on my friends' projects and giving them some love. So now that I have filmed and I have shared this one with you, I can pack up Cam's project to go to Marjorie, and it'll be its last stop on its little round robin journey. So we've gotten to a place where we are all caught up and everyone has the project they're supposed to work on in the month of February, which is great. So this was the project I was supposed to work on in February, and I knocked it out last night was when I finished this on February 2nd. And yeah, so that is Cam's project, and I just have to work on Marjorie's, and then I'm done. So Marjorie's project is pretty cool because she is having everyone stitch it with the colors that they chose for their individual piece. And so I'll be working with my original color and cotton floss that I sent off in the month of March. So I've got a little bit to wait, but I am caught up, which is great. And I can move on to the rest of my monthly goals for this month. So like I said, that's it for everything I stitched, but I do have a couple plans and haul. So we'll start with a little bit of light plans, and that is hashtag Pink February Stitching. So my friends and I came up with this hashtag and idea. I think I mentioned it in my last video that I was thinking about doing it, but Cam took it and ran with it. And Cam made this amazing graphic for people to use and add pictures of the projects that they're planning on working on. And the hashtag is hashtag Pink February Stitching. And it's essentially just to work on projects with pink in the month of February because it's Valentine's. And I have a lot of projects like that. So for me, my Vanity Sampler and my Song of the Nightingale by Modern Folk Embroidery are already monthly goals that I have, and they already have pink in them. Sarah Moon also already has pink in it, so that fits under the purview. And the other focus projects that I have actually ended up being my Whip Go calls, which is wild. I could not have planned Whip Go better if I tried. And my Whip Go calls were Real Comfort by Modern Folk Embroidery, which is my pink on pink piece. I'm stitching it on a hot pink fabric with hot pink floss, and it's beautiful, and I really want to focus hard on this in the month of February anyway, and then it got pulled for Whip Go, so it was already perfect. And then like I said, Oh Joyous Day was my second Whip Go call, so I'll be working on those. The only project that doesn't technically have pink that I'll be working on in the month of February is my Second Day of Christmas by Hello from Liz Mathews, but I have to do those pieces, otherwise it's going to be 2030 before I get those finished. And I'd like to have them done by the end of 2025. So that is that. I think that covers all of my goals. And my only whip anniversary is also Oh Joyous Day, so that fits well. And yeah, so that's everything. I do have a couple bits of haul, and I have a book to share, so if books or haul interest you, stick around. We'll start off with my fabric of the month from Be Stitch Me. This is my last cut of 40 count, and then I've switched to a 36 count club moving forward. but the color for this month is called Dusty Cottage. It is beautiful. I'm obsessed with this for Halloween or for like a grungy sampler. I think this could be really beautiful. So that's my fabric of the month. I also do color and cotton, but I haven't got that in yet. And then I pre-ordered this from a country sampler a while ago just because everyone was talking about it and I needed it. So I picked this up a while back and it's been on pre-order for a long time. So I got Winter Moon by Plum Street Samplers. This is an exclusive to Country Stitches right now, I think. And you have to buy it as a full kit. So I did. I got the 36 count option, which is Saltbush by Fox and Rabbit. It comes with all the called for threads, which is a pretty long laundry list actually. So I'm really excited. I'm planning on starting this next winter, but I wanted to go ahead and get the kit because I wasn't sure how long it was going to be exclusive. And because I didn't want that to ship on its own, I did pick up one more chart from them that I've been eyeing for a while, and that is Redbird Fractor by With Thy Needle and Thread. And tell me those grumpy little birds are not freaking adorable. I love how like simple and light and airy this piece is and very antique-y and prim, but like they just look like little grumpy curmudgeon-y old men and I love it. So that's this piece. I definitely want to get this started if I can earn my starts this year. And that's it for haul. So that covers everything cross stitch. If this is where you leave me today, go ahead and leave me a fox emoji because I finished the fox, and I will catch up with you next time. But if reading is your jam, I've got a couple book chat things for us to talk about, so stick around for that. Okay, book chat. So I finished one book since I've last talked with you, and I've started another. So I figured I'd talk to you a little bit about my reading plans as well as what I actually finished. So I actually have the physical copy. I finished Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. This is the second in the Empyrean series and the follow-up to Fourth Wing. I milked this. I read it for a long time and I definitely have some thoughts. I'm going to keep this completely spoiler-free though, so don't worry if you haven't read it yet. I'm not going to spoil anything. But this series picks up right at where we left off in Fourth Wing. This series follows a Dragon Academy. It's a fantasy series. It's definitely adult, but it follows this girl, Violet, who goes to a dragon war college, essentially, and becomes a dragon rider. And so this book picks up here. This book is the second. I think she said the series is going to have 5 books. Now, don't get me wrong. I loved this. I definitely was shocked. But for me, this book had the potential to take some pressure off the rest of the series or to add more pressure to the rest of the series based on how it went. And let me explain what I mean by that. It's because I really, really enjoyed Fourth Wing. I read it twice last year. I think it's a really fun premise. It has a lot of nostalgia for the books that I loved reading in high school, like Divergent and The Hunger Games. It definitely has those dystopian vibes, but it's for a more adult audience. It's very simple. It's a fun time. You know, you don't take yourself too seriously reading these books. But the second book, if it had been amazing, would have taken some pressure off of the rest of the series. But for me, this fell a little bit flat in a couple of ways. Again, I love this book, so I'm not shitting all over it, right? I still enjoyed this. But for me, I don't love Xaden. I'm gonna get some hate for that. To me, he feels like he has like just 2 personality traits, and one of them is likes Violet and one of them is has secrets. And I just need a little bit more from him to really support them as a couple. So I guess minor spoilers, but essentially the 2 of them, they got together really fast. And I think that this could have been dragged out into a bit more of a slow burn, and then I would have bought more into the touch her and I'll kill you, die for one another kind of love, right? And I get that they're in a death situation like all the time. I just want a little bit more from them together to support them as a couple being as intense as they are, if that makes sense. But I love the side characters. I thought the last bit of this book went so fast and I didn't see the twist coming at the end. Really the 2 twists. The end, I had to sit there and like stare at a wall for a second and like process what just happened. And I did like really like the end. It's just kind of the middle bits got like a little sloggy for me. And I just need a little bit more character development. And I don't know if it's because we saw less of Xaden here, that there was less to get into, and maybe we'll develop more. But I think this could have been, I also don't know if it was because of the publishing turnaround that this kind of didn't get as much. But anyway, I think the next book could either be really, really great or kind of fall flat for me, and maybe it will be, I won't continue the series. I'm not really sure. But right now I'm still like into it enough that I want to finish it. I just think that this could have been done a little bit better with the character development. I think the plot is great. So don't, come down my throat for my opinions here. It's just what I thought. I just want a little bit more from them as a couple to understand like why they really love each other, because I don't fully get it. It feels a little bit situational to me, but feel free to disagree. I'm not like trying to make my opinion full. I just need a little bit more because the middle was a little bit of a slog for me. But the end really did like kind of make up for a lot of that, and I definitely need to know what happened and what's going to happen and how we're going to move on from this. I also feel a little bit guilty for the thoughts I was having about a character during this whole thing. But I just, the side characters I'm obsessed with, and I definitely will continue with the third book. But if this turns into another From Blood and Ash situation, I'm gonna have to stop, because I loved the first couple books in From Blood and Ash, and then it devolved so fast, and somehow we got to Green Bean Casserole and I had to get off the roller coaster. But that's my thoughts on Iron Flame. Definitely, if you've read Fourth Wing, read this. Like, it's worth it. I think I'm valid in thinking that I need a little bit more between the two of them, but maybe I'm not. I also read this, while having seasonal depression, so also take that into account. Because it's that kind of time of year, right? Everything's icy, you can't leave your house. It's fine. So that's Iron Flame. I have now moved on to a Crescent City reread. The Mossverse has gotten me, and I mean, it's had me for a long time, let's be real. But the third book in the Crescent City series, House of Flame and Shadow, just came out. I have my hands on it already, don't you worry. But I wanted to give myself a refresher on the first two books in that series. I've read the first book quite a few times, but never with the understanding of the lens of the last sentence of book 2. So I'm rereading that, and I'm definitely picking up on a lot of stuff. And then I only read book 2 once when it came out last year, so giving that a reread for a refresher, and then I'm going to hop into book 3. I'm scared, don't give me spoilers. But so I'm hoping the next time that I chat with you, we can chat about the entire Crescent City series, but I forgot how much I loved book 1. It's an urban fantasy series, and yeah. So that's my reading plans. That's everything officially. So I'm going to stop filming, clean up, and start working on my February goals. Like I said, I've been really loving being more goal-oriented with my stitching recently, and that's just because I'm not struggling with project indecision. There's always something I should be working on, and I just move on to the next thing. And I'm not having to sit there and kind of think about what I'm in the mood for and how much I should work on it. It's very cut and dry, and I love it. So that's that. I'm going to go clean up and watch some more Vanderpump Rules, and I will chat with you guys again in a couple of weeks, which should be toward the end of February. So I'll chat with you, wish me luck on keeping up with my goals, and let me know if you're participating in Pink February stitching, or if you have any monthly goals you're working on, or if you're working on Whip Go, how's that going, etc., etc. I'm liking it so far, and that's everything. So I will see you guys next time. Happy February. I love you all. Make sure to say hi, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.